Hello, welcome back to Armchair Armory, and we are here for the last time for the 24-25 season. As you can see in the background, I've got the squad photo, which is sort of my my thing for the end of season reviews. Yeah, so 24-25. Where to start? So essentially my overarching feelings on this season have been, despite the fact that there was mild expectation from me and other Arsenal fans to go one better and, win silverware this season, particularly the Premier League. I still stand by what I said if you go back and watch last season's review, I did say that I say it all the time. We don't have any right to go on and win the league or win whatever competition it is that we're in. Like, it's loads of factors can cause you not to do that. But I think on the flip side, this season has been not only disappointing because we've sort of come out of it with nothing again. Sort of 3 years in a row, we've come out of it with nothing at all. And then, we see pretty much, 3 other teams in England winning trophies, one of them being Spurs winning the Europa League. Chelsea won the Europa Conference League. Crystal Palace won the FA Cup. So Newcastle as well, who knocked us out in the in the semi-final of the Carabao Cup, they won a trophy. So it's definitely something that's marred with a little bit of a bitter taste in the mouth. But if I had to use a soundbite to describe it, and I've been trying to what I'm about to say may not make any sense, I'm not sure. But basically how I've sort of summed up this season is that there's been unforgettable moments, like beating City 5-1, the beating Real Madrid 5-1 over 2 legs in the Champions League quarter-final when nobody gave us a cat in hell's chance. Stuff like that has been few and far between, with a season that's sort of marred with disappointment and questions being asked at the end of it. There's been things that have been out of our control, obviously, but there are things that have also been within the control of the club, the manager, the players, etc., etc. I think there's a lot of Arsenal fans now, myself included, if we're talking about just Mikel Arteta alone. He's behind my head here. There he is there. If we're just talking about him alone, I still back him fully. I still think that the progress that we've made over the last 3 years has probably been enough to allow one more season. I think that there will be, and this was a big mistake from the club during the January transfer window, that we didn't sign anyone. We didn't sign anyone to back up the problems we've been having with injuries to Havertz and Gabriel Jesus, and then Martinelli for a while, Saka, etc., etc. We ended up shooting ourselves in the face for that, really. And I think that they will rectify that this summer. We're already hearing that Martin Zubimendi, the defensive midfielder from Real Sociedad, has already been given the Fabrizio Romano here we go treatment. So I think it's only a matter of time before he's on his way to us. There's a medical booked in, I think. I don't know if it's already happened or it's going to happen this week. I'm not sure. But yeah, it's one of those things. I think this is probably the first summer transfer window where it's going to feel like we're actually doing bits, as the kids say. It's going to feel like we're actually doing something. And I think this is what will be interesting, that if we do get, Zubimendi, 2 other players in, particularly a striker, and we go into next season and the same sort of things happening, then you can turn around and say, yeah, it's the coach, it's the management that's not up to scratch. But yeah, overall, it's been a disappointing season, particularly in the league. When you go, this is what I'm saying, that there's no guarantee that you're going to repeat the same success that you had, the same progress that you had the previous season. We were 2 points behind City at the back end of last season, and I thought going into this season that City would probably be as good as they were, if not better. Arne Slot was coming in at Liverpool after, Klopp leaving after however many years it is, 10 years, something like that, 10, 11 years. And I thought Liverpool probably won't be up there to start off with. They didn't make any signings during the summer. They didn't strengthen the squad. I thought brand new manager, no new signings, same players. They'll probably be there or thereabouts, but they'll probably still be behind us. City, I thought, would just kick on as normal. Pep had signed a 2-year deal. I thought they don't really need too much at the moment, maybe 1 or 2 here and there. They'll probably go on and win the league again, if we're not at the races. I was looking at teams like Man United, and I thought they cannot be as bad as they were last season. Yeah, they finished by winning an FA Cup. They then went and had an even worse start to the season, sacked Erik ten Hag, brought in Ruben Amorim, and they've sort of finished probably worse off than they were under Erik ten Hag. I still think Ruben Amorim is probably is going to be the guy for them, to be honest. But yeah, the Europa League final, they had to win. They had to win as a club, and also for sort of like the banter against Spurs. But it is what it is. Spurs, I thought, would be better this season than they were. They finished almost out. They finished just outside the relegation zone. I know it was away because the relegation fight this year hasn't really been much to write home about. It's just been the 3 teams that came up coming down again, or going back down again. But I find that so I went into, as I said, the season thinking, let's see what we can do. Let's see if we can improve on that great run of form from last season. So I did not expect, that's what I was going to say before, I did not expect City to fall off the way that they did. I think they finished third in the end, didn't they? Let me just check the final table. So the final table, the final table in terms of the top 6. So there was also a top 5 rather than a top 4 this year, because of the fact that something to do with the amount of English teams that had done well across the European competitions or something like that. So we got an extra Champions League spot this year, which went to Newcastle. It's crazy how, look, if you look here, Newcastle and Aston Villa, basically on goal difference, was the difference between them getting into Europe, and also the fact that they lost on the final day to Man United, which is probably in a while Man United's best performance that I'd seen. But anyway, so City still managed to finish third, 3 points behind us, and you see here the 10-point gap. Now, I did not expect Liverpool to be title contenders this season. At a stretch, I could say it would probably have been between us, City, and them. But they've been absolutely outstanding, and full credit to Liverpool and Arne Slot for doing this in his first season, getting them to their 2nd Premier League title and their 20th English League title, Division 1 title overall, making them the most successful league club in the land. So that was unprecedented. We have also had a lot of bad luck this season, and I know that there's a lot of, even our own fans, the ones that I had a rant about after PSG, that move the goalposts just because they don't like Mikel Arteta, that go, oh yeah, but there's always injuries. There's injuries every season. Like there's always injuries. Like what? It's not an excuse. There's always red cards. There's always suspensions. For me, this has been unprecedented. I've not seen this in an Arsenal season, probably since the days of Wenger. I've not seen a season where we've lost key player after key player. And just to provide a bit of nuance and a bit of balance, that's where the club is at fault. Not necessarily the manager, to some extent the manager, but not all the way. The club is at fault for the fact that they didn't recruit properly in the summer, which I'll talk about in a minute. And they didn't, when it got really bad, they didn't recruit at all in January, which I think really hurt us. But yeah, you go into the season with a little bit of optimism because of the performances that we put in last season. Summer transfer window comes along. We sign Ricardo Calafiori, who you can see above my my left shoulder, which looks like the right on here. We signed Mikel Merino, who's on the other side there. And we also signed on deadline day on loan. We signed Neto, who is next to David Raya in this photo. And then also Raheem Sterling, who I don't... oh, yeah, he is there. He's next to Kieran Tierney. Raheem Sterling has been an absolute fail. It was... When the signing was made, and let me go through them one by one. Like Neto, here or there. Like we weren't going to get a backup goalkeeper in time. I think he's like 37, 38 now. Like he would have been... I think he only played a handful of games for us this season. I think Mikel Merino is a good player, and I think he's turned out to be quite a decent signing for us so far. Ricardo Calafiori, I think from the Euros looked like a very, very good signing, but I think that he's been so injury prone this season that it's very hard to say whether he's going to be successful or not. I'm not one of these people that just writes off a player after one season, like unless it's really obvious, like the next person I'm going to talk about. But yeah, with Calafiori, I think we've still got more to see from him, essentially. And then Raheem Sterling, like I wouldn't say I was excited. I was sort of underwhelmed when we signed him, but I was like, well, he's a decent player in principle, you know. To start off with, when he was at Chelsea, he was doing all right. Obviously, he was one of City's best players at one point, one of England's best forwards at one point. So it was like, well, hopefully we can get a bit of the Raheem Sterling from Euro 2020/21, and sort of the time when he was at Man City, and we just didn't get that. Like he was, it's probably one of the worst loan signings I've ever seen in Arsenal history. And that's up there with Denis Suarez, who didn't play at all, pretty much. I think he played one half of a game. Yeah, it just felt like every time he came on, nothing happened. You look at somebody like Raheem Sterling on paper and you go, that's someone that could impact a game. And every time he was on the field, he had a couple of good performances. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't like it was shocking every single performance, every single time he played. But I just felt like he never impacted the game at all. Never really did anything to change things. It just felt like at times he was going through the motions, you know. And I don't understand how he's fallen off so far. But yeah, it was an absolute disaster. And I think at the time when we signed him, I didn't think it was going to be a disaster. I thought it's not great, because I would have preferred to get a younger, more dynamic winger to come in. We couldn't get that person for whatever reason. And it was like, well, if you can't get that person, you get sort of, quote unquote, the next best thing. You get like somebody that's Premier League proven, that's like, can have a good game here and there, can impact games, but he just didn't impact games at all. So I think with Calafiori, Sterling's going to go back to Chelsea anyway, but like with Calafiori, I think he's the jury's still out. I think Marino's done okay, especially what he's had to do in the last couple, and Neto's going to go back to Bournemouth, so that is what it is. But yeah, so we go into the season. We start off opening game of the Premier League season with if I go before that, I mean, it was very, from an armchair armory point of view, in the very first sort of echelons of the season, let's say, the first sort of openings of the season when the pre-season friendly started, I was in the middle of moving property. I think, in fact, the day we played by Leverkusen at the Emirates, I was moving the next day. I was moving the next day after that. I mean, I don't normally watch, I don't pay the club to watch the friendlies anyway, because I just don't see the point in getting like excited about stuff in friendlies. Like Stefan, who's been on this channel before, like I think when we played Man United, we lost on penalties to them in that weird thing where like you win the game but they still do a penalty shootout at the end. So I think we won 2-1 in 90 minutes, and then we did a penalty shootout and they won that game. They won that penalty shootout, and he was messaging me being like, "Oh, we cooked you in the friend." I'm like, "It's a friendly. Who cares? Like, it doesn't mean anything. The friendly doesn't mean anything." So around that time there was a lot going on, and I didn't have much time to really do any recording or anything like that. I mean, for those of you that have been watching the channel for a while, I've sort of changed, because originally I used to do like a pre-season show, but I just couldn't have the time to do it, and I didn't have the resource to, you know, be following all the news like, you know, a bigger channel in this world would do, and that sort of stuff. So I tended not to. I just decided to stop doing it in the end and just go straight into the season and do what I can control, essentially. But yeah, it's so the pre-season kind of passed me by, just apart from the fact of checking my phone and seeing what the scores are. We then get to the sort of penultimate sort of pre-season game that we have every single year, which is the Emirates Cup at the Emirates Stadium. We won that game 2-0 against Lyon. And then we go into the Premier League season. So as I said, I'd moved property by this point, and my laptop got damaged in transit, so I couldn't do anything really in that first week of the Premier League season. I couldn't do anything, so I didn't watch the game. I mean, it's at 3:00, so it wouldn't have been on TV anyway, but I couldn't watch the game. I couldn't follow the game apart from like scores on my phone. I couldn't really do anything. Then I sort of improvised, and when we got to the next season, the Aston Villa game at Villa Park, obviously last season we lost there. I think they beat us twice last season, both home and away. And this was a really big marker, you know. I think winning at Villa Park was something we hadn't done for a while, and to go there and win 2-0, it wasn't a great performance, don't get me wrong. I think Trossard came on as a substitute and scored a brace. There was a lot of fallout after the game from him not really celebrating the goals, and yeah, nothing really came of that. But yeah, we're off the mark basically. 2 in a row. We beat Wolves 2-0, beat Villa 2-0. We're off and running. Then this is where things start going downhill. At home to Brentford. I should probably share my screen again, actually, because you guys don't know what I'm talking about. Yeah, so at home to Brentford, and Declan Rice gets sent off. We're 1-0 up. Havertz scores in the 37th minute, and then I can't remember whether it was before halftime or after halftime, but anyway, Declan Rice gets sent off for seemingly kicking the ball away, which later on in the season, that sort of like phases away. You don't really see that as often, but it seems like it kept constantly happening to us. And lo and behold, after we're down to 10 men, obviously Brighton are in the ascendancy. They go on and score through João Pedro, who looks like he might be going to Chelsea. Then the North London derby, a very, very comfortable 1-0 win, I would say. This is where the sort of...
Remember to like and subscribe, and also follow Dan on X and Instagram, and all the information is in the description below.
Set piece FC banter started because we scored from a set piece. I don't think, if I remember correctly, I don't think Spurs really had much of a chance in that game. Then we start in the Champions League. Obviously, the new Champions League format is a league phase now of 36 teams. And we start with a 0-0 draw against Atalanta. And actually, the draw itself wasn't too bad. Like, it was a pretty even game, but it was, in terms of like this new phase, it was all about sort of trying to get points on the board, at least to start off with, because we didn't really know how this new phase was going to go. I think across the board, nobody really knew how this new phase was going to go. And essentially, this overall was a good draw away from home at the GVI Stadium. Then the big one, Manchester City at the Etihad. We were this close. I think we were so much the better team in this game. And this is where the first signs of City not being the team, in my opinion, the first signs of City not being the team that they were the last few seasons, where they felt like they were sort of disjointed. They also had this big injury to Rodri, so he wasn't playing. He's a very big part of why I think they've won the league over the last 2 seasons or so. We went 2-0 up. We were 2-0 up at halftime. Well, 2-1 up at halftime. And yeah, like, again, another bullshit decision of Trossard being sent off for seemingly kept booting the ball away. There was a bit more of a argument, but I think you could easily turn around and say he didn't hear the whistle. The guy gets sent off, and yeah, we basically got to play defensive for the whole second half. And unfortunately, in the 97th minute, we concede a goal from a corner turned in by John Stones, and City come away with a point. There are a lot of not Arsenal fans. There are a lot of rival fans that came up to me afterwards and were like, yeah, you guys were always complaining about negative football. I know one Newcastle fan in particular that was complaining at me about when they came to the Emirates and sort of played like that to try and get out of there with a draw. And I was like, well, when you're down to 10 men, you've got to do what you've got to do to get the result, essentially. So yeah, I won't talk too much about this because I cannot really remember. Sterling scored in that game. I forgot about that. The Carabao Cup third round against Bolton. We win that 5-1. Then again, because this wasn't on TV, I can't really talk too much about this. But yeah, we beat Leicester 4-2. It was one of those games where we were cruising, and then, just after half time, Leicester get these 2 chances, and they're now 2-2. And luckily, we turn it round in the last couple of minutes. Oh yes, Tuesday, the 1st of October. So again, I didn't see this game apart from the highlights on YouTube because I was stuck in traffic coming back from the office at my day job for 6 hours. There was a really, really terrible accident on the motorway, and it basically left the entire motorway in gridlock for 6 hours. So I didn't get home until midnight that night, and I couldn't access it on the radio or anything. So it was a very pleasant surprise to see us beat, a European powerhouse, the team that eventually became Champions League winners for this season. Paris Saint-Germain, we beat them 2-0. The one thing I will say, though, which I'll come on to later when we go through, is that PSG were probably a much different team when we played them here to when we played them later on in the season in that semi-final. So yeah, 3-1 win over Southampton. I think that's pretty standard. Then we moved to our first loss of the season, which was against Bournemouth, and we didn't get another player sent off here. I think this one was a little bit more justified. You could make the argument that Ben White was coming across and Evan Nilsson wasn't the last man, but yeah, Saliba got sent off essentially, and after that we were sort of like dead and buried. It wasn't a great performance either. So then in the Champions League, another not great performance, but we managed to come out unscathed, beating Shakhtar Donetsk 1-0. Then the next game was Liverpool. It's very, very similar to the City game. where we were 2-1 up going into half-time, 2-1 up going into most of the game. And, you know, they've got Mohamed Salah, who's probably had his best ever season in a Liverpool shirt. And that guy just, you know, pops out of nowhere and scores goals and gets Liverpool over the line. And even at this point, I wouldn't necessarily say Liverpool were like on the ascendancy of going on to win the league. They were sort of like neck and neck with us at this point. And I think it's later on in the season where things slightly changed. So yeah, fourth round of the Carabao Cup, we beat Preston North End 3-0, which is pretty standard. Wasn't a great game. Then these guys, Newcastle in the Premier League, were like the bane of our lives for most of this season. Quite a poor performance from our point of view. Alexander Isak with a goal, a thorn in our side for a lot of the season, Alexander Isak. And we get two, and that's, you know, 3 not so positive results in a row in the league. We then lose our second game in a row for the season, and we lose to Inter Milan in the Champions League. A penalty converted by Chanalong, can't say his name. Chal and Oglu, yeah, that guy. From what I remember, I don't think it was necessarily a bad performance. I just think, you know, Inter Milan performed very well defensively after they got that goal. I don't actually remember too much about this game against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. It's one of the themes of this season is that we drew a lot in the Premier League. I think we got 14 draws altogether, something like that. Yeah, 14 draws across the season, where Liverpool got 9. But yeah, again, you can see, and I can't remember how many points it is, but there was a stat that was scary that we'd had. I think we dropped 21 points from winning positions, and you can see here we were 1-0 up against Chelsea. You know, 10 minutes later they equalise and they get away with a draw. Then we go to the next week, we're playing Nottingham Forest, who for a lot of parts of the season were in the top 4, and we're looking like they might get Champions League football, beat them 3-0. This was another one that was quite interesting. I believe this was the first game for Sporting Lisbon without Ruben Amorim, after Ruben Amorim went to Man United. And I think a lot of people thought that we'd go there and it would be a tougher game, go to the Alvalade, and there'd be more of a game there. And we went and won this 5-1. It was an exceptional performance from Arsenal in this. Then there was this game, a weird game against West Ham at the London Stadium. Yeah, it was really strange. Like, we were 3-0 up, 4-0 up, in fact. And then just before half time, no, we were 5-0 up, weren't we? Yeah, it must have been. No, 4-0 up. And then just before half time, the West Ham just get these mad 2 quick goals from Wan-Bissaka and Emerson. Emerson scored a free kick. Wan-Bissaka's goal was good as well. Luckily, we got the 5th, and it was sort of like what. And then the second half was just dead, absolutely dead. But it finished 5-2 to Arsenal. Then we moved to December the 4th, where we're playing Man United at home, 2-0. Another game that got people saying that we're just set pieces merchants, because I think both goals we scored were from set pieces. I think Amorim was the manager would have been the manager by this point. Yeah, Amorim was. I think that may have been Amorim's first Premier League game in charge of United. This was a really poor performance in general. The Fulham game at Craven Cottage, we took the lead through Saliba. Fulham took the lead through Raul Jimenez. We equalised. We did get a goal in the last minute from Saka, but it turned out that Martinelli was offside. We move on. Back in the Champions League, 3-0 win over Monaco, which was pretty good. I think it was a very comfortable win there. Again, this wasn't on TV, but a lot of the first sort of vitriolic flip-floppiness of our fan base of the season started here, where apparently this was a really pathetic performance. A 0-0 draw with Everton. Then in the Carabao Cup, this is a back-to-back, playing Palace both in the Carabao Cup and in the league. Won both of those games. Gabriel Jesus hat-trick. This was where we thought Gabriel Jesus would be back to how he was when he first started for us when he signed a couple of years ago. I think he scored 2 more in the follow-up in the Premier League. We won that game 5-1. Another really good performance there. Poor performance overall with the Ipswich game, but we got the win. I think a lot of people felt it was worse than it was, just because it was Ipswich, who were like 19th at the time, and well, they finished 19th actually, didn't they? They obviously they were in the relegation zone at the time, or in the relegation zone, and thought that we should be battering them, but you know, a win is a win. New Year's Day 2025, we then go to Brentford, another stadium that we struggled at over the past couple of seasons. It was a pretty good performance, managed to win that 3-1. Again, did somebody get sent off in this game as well, in the Brighton game? I don't think so. No, I don't think so. Anyway, João Pedro again scoring a penalty. Oh yes, that's what it was. It was the weird headbutt, the weird clashing of heads between João Pedro and Saliba that got given as a penalty. I mean, I can understand why it was given, but again, it was another bullshit decision. And by this point, you know, I think Saka was out by this point. I think, no, did Saka go down in January, or was it February or March? I can't remember, but yeah. Then the Carabao Cup at the Emirates, we were absolutely shocking performance from us. We got absolutely ripped the shit out of by Newcastle. Isaac, Gordon and Murphy absolutely destroyed our defence. We go 2-0 down into that semi-final. Then we play Manchester United. In the FA Cup, we lose on penalties. Again, not a great performance. Again, we're struggling with what we've been struggling with throughout for a lot of Arteta's reign so far, since Aubameyang left. Getting into decent positions but not taking our chances, and we got punished for it. So that's the FA Cup over. Again, it's something that I feel since we won it in 2020, we've not been anywhere near. I think we haven't got past the 3rd round or the 4th round. So that's something Arteta needs to improve on. But then we follow that up with a win against Spurs on the 15th of January. And yeah, I think I remember this performance being pretty good from what I remember. Again, I think we scored 2 set-piece goals again. So again, because it's Spurs, and Spurs hate it, they'll be like, oh, you only won because you got set pieces, blah, blah, blah. But they weren't any better, to be honest. This was another game where I think you could say we were definitely starting to pull away from Liverpool, starting to fall back from Liverpool. 2-0 up against Aston Villa at the Emirates. They pull it back to make it 2-2. We sort of like threw away that lead. After the good result against Spurs, it was just a kick in the teeth to drop points the way we did. Then returning to the Champions League, which now moves into the new year with the new format. We beat Dynamo Zagreb 3-0 at the Emirates. I think Miles Lewis-Skelly got sent off in this game against Wolves at Molineux. Obviously, it wasn't. Yeah, he did. It wasn't on TV. They also had somebody sent off as well. Calafiori with a big goal to get us that 1-0, keep us in the title hunt. Then the final game of the Champions League phase was against Girona. And yeah, I think we were lucky to get away with this one. Even though we were through by this point, we were lucky to not get out of there with a point. I think they scored in the last minute, but it got ruled out, and we just scraped over the line. This was probably one of my favorite moments of the season, because I feel like it had been coming for a while that we were going to give it to them. You know, I remember in Arteta's second full season, I want to say, was it his second or his first? No, it would have been his second full season, when they beat us 5-0 at the Etihad. I just felt like we've improved so much of it as a team since then, you know. And yeah, to beat them 5-1 was exceptional. I'm a little bit annoyed that we conceded a goal, but it is what it is. I mean, yeah, that was great. It was a great performance. Then we completely, and this is probably the only point in the season where I went down the whole sort of like rant mode, let's say, because even though we were 2-0 down from the first leg, and that's in the semi-final of the Carabao Cup, I did feel like I thought that like beating City 5-1 would propel us to go and try and turn this round. And I think the Carabao Cup was a trophy that we could have won. I think if we got to that final, which Newcastle eventually got to and won against Liverpool, I think we could have done. We could have done with it now after everything that's happened. I know a lot of Arsenal fans and a lot of football fans in general, particularly those that are supporters of clubs from the so-called Big Six, they tend to put down the Carabao Cup. But yeah, like I don't think it's a good idea. I don't think it's a good idea to do that, really, because a trophy's a trophy at the end of the day, and this is what Arsenal have been lacking, and this is what now everyone's saying about us, that we're, you know, we can't get it over the line and we won't win a trophy, and we're becoming the new Spurs, essentially. But it was a poor performance. It was worse than the home performance, to be honest. We didn't look like scoring at all. We couldn't lay a glove on them out of the Carabao Cup, and this is sort of two occasions this season we've lost to the team in the semi-final that goes on to win the tournament. So make of that what you will. And then by this point, yeah, we've got a lot of injuries at this point. I think Havertz had gone down. I think Saka was out by this point. Martinelli was also out by this point. And Arteta's scrambling and looking for solutions. And he starts with Trossard up front in this game against Leicester at the King Power, brings on Marino, and somehow Marino finds the answer, start going up front, and scores 2 goals that win us the game. Keeps us a little bit in the hunt with Liverpool. We then lost 1-0 at another poor performance at the Emirates against West Ham. Our home form this season has been awful. We lose 1-0 to West Ham, and this pretty much killed any chance of us getting anywhere near Liverpool. The same again at the City Ground, another poor performance, all but certainly meant that we're not taking this to the final day like we did last season. Round of 16, we qualified, I think, 3rd in the Champions League phase, and we got PSV Eindhoven in the round of 16. Absolutely, really good performance. We win the game 7-1. Not expected at all, especially for an away game in a European competition. I can't actually remember a lot of this game against Man United at Old Trafford in the league. I can't remember too much of what happened. We should have beaten them, I know that. I think we should have been better than we were, but unfortunately we got away with we only got out of there with a point. We then came back to the Emirates for the second leg of the round of 16 game against PSV. That finished 2-2. You know, luckily we had a five goal advantage going into it. I think based on that, we won 9-3 in the end on aggregate anyway. So it is what it is. Through to the quarterfinals, which was against Real Madrid. This was a decent performance, I'd say, against Chelsea at home. Mikel Merino again with some big goals, another big goal to get us those 3 points. We then go into April. Again, Saka was back by this point because he scored. He came on, didn't he, and scored? Yeah. I can't remember too much about the performance in general, but yeah, we got that over the line. Another poor performance at Everton, from what I know, or from what I remember, nothing game really. We went 1-0 up, conceded a penalty, which was converted, and we, left there with a point. And by this point, I think we'd all but conceded the league to Liverpool, who I think at this point were about 8 points clear. So then this is another big positive memory for this season. The quarterfinal first leg, in particular, against Real Madrid, who, people thought that we were dead, that we had no chance. Well, I thought we had no chance. And then, Rice scores 2 mad free kicks, Merino with a goal, and we're sitting pretty. We look like we're in the semi-finals. Again, we keep doing this a lot, where we have these really good performances and then we follow it up with a poor performance. And this is what happened against Brentford. We take the lead through Partey, and again, Wissa gets the point for Brentford. There's another poor performance. I was actually at a wedding when this happened. So I only saw, after going and watching it back, it was a poor performance, and a lot of our home performances have been bad. So then we go to the Bernabeu, and we managed to win there as well. We scored first, which was good, but this is what we needed to do, because despite the fact that Real Madrid were 3-0 down, if there was one team that was going to turn it around, it would be Real Madrid. Vinicius Jr. did equalise in the 66th minute, as you can see there, but then Martinelli got a one-on-one with Courtois at the end to kill it off, and we go through to the semi-finals, our first semi-final since we got to the final in 2006. Following week, we go to Portman Road. We're in that 4-0. I think that was quite standard, quite a decent performance. Again, another home draw where we are 2-0 up at half time, or 2-1 up at half time, I should say. Give away 2 stupid goals. We gave away 2 stupid goals from SM. The Mateta one especially was really bad. And then we're in the semi-final, and this is what I said earlier on. We played PSG in the league phase in October. Completely different team to what we played here. They were so much better this time round. I don't understand why over the 2 legs Arteta thought we were the better team. I just think he was being a sore loser, to be honest. But yeah, we lose 1-0, and I don't think we did have chances, but we just didn't take them. Then we lose 2-1 to Bournemouth. Again, I don't know, it was another one where it wasn't a bad performance. I just think, again, we capitulated in this game, from what I remember. Then the Parc des Princes, the return leg of the Champions League semi-final. I think we were quite good for the first 20. I think overall we actually made a good account of ourselves, especially for the first 20-30 minutes. We had a lot of chances, we just didn't take them. And, Fabian Ruiz and Hakimi punished our poor defending. We did get a goal, but yeah, 2-1, 3-1 on aggregate to PSG, who went on to win the Champions League. By this point, Liverpool were all but crowned as champions. They come back. We come back. We play them at Anfield. They're 2-0 up. Within, the first 20 minutes, they're 2-0 up. And I'm thinking, yeah, it's going to be a long day. I can imagine we're going to be 4-0 down by the middle of the second half. But credit to Arsenal, we came back, took it back to 2-2. And on the grand scheme of things, that wasn't really a bad point at this point of the season. No, I actually think Liverpool, and then Liverpool then played Spurs the following weekend, and confirmed as league champions, I believe. I don't know if it was this weekend or this weekend, but anyway, we then play Newcastle, who have already beaten us 3 times this season. We finally beat them with a brilliant finish from Declan Rice. That all but secures us Champions League football for next season. And then we play Southampton on the last day, which obviously wasn't on TV. Great to see Kieran Tierney get a goal. We win 2-1, confirmed second for the next for the third time in a row. So overall, as I say, it's been a few moments in there that I will never forget as an Arsenal fan, but also it's been tinged with a bit of disappointment, and there are questions that are to be asked. And I think and now we look ahead to next season, and this definitely is probably going to be make or break for Arteta from a coaching point of view. I think if he does get the players in that he believes we need, and we still fall short, I don't think he'll be here by the end of next season. But yeah, let's see what's going to happen. I'm actually quite excited about the summer. I'm quite excited to see who we bring in. We've obviously pretty much almost got Martin Zubimendi in, and it's now all about who we get after that. There will be a striker. There probably will be a wide player. Let's see, and a backup goalkeeper. Let's see what we do. But yeah, disappointing season. Questions will be asked, but there were a few moments in there, like the Real Madrid tie and the game against City, that I won't ever forget as an Arsenal fan. Onwards and upwards, I suppose. We take it on the chin, and we go again next season. Just want to say, I know I said it after the Newcastle reaction, but thank you for all of you that have subscribed this season. Thank you for all of you that have joined me since the beginning. I'll be back next season, Armchair Armory wise, as usual. Unlike other content creators in this space, I'm going to take a break for the season, for the summer, unless something crazy happens. And I think the only thing left to say is what I always say, which is take care and stay safe.
Remember to like and subscribe, and also follow Dan on X and Instagram, and all the information is in the description below.